Hey guys, it's Maymay, and we're back after a week-long illness. Thank you so much for your patience with me as I was healing. Please forgive my scratchy throat. It's still kind of hanging around, but we're getting there. So when we left off, we did this A2 size magazine style holder for our A2 size cards. You guys asked me if I could do two other styles, the 6x6 and the 5x7, and that's what this video is about. So we're going to make the 6x6 and then the 5x7. So let's get started. Now the 6x6 ends up looking like this when it's completed with some little changes here to the end. This is the prototype I made, and I decided to make some little changes here that I'm going to show you in the finished one. But it doesn't look exactly like the other one. It has this little extra kind of lip to it, and I left it there for stability. Again, once it kind of extended past this area, see how here it kind of ends and it's nice and sturdy. Here, if I kind of cut that loose, all this would be wasted, and this was really good for stability. So I went ahead and left this area on here. So that's why this one looks a little bit different. So let's get ready and make it. It's very similar to the other one. There's just a couple of little things different. One being, we're going to use one 12x12 piece of paper plus a little extra piece for the front. So what you're going to do is you're going to score this 12x12 just like we did for the A2. And if you want measurements for the A2, I have a blog post, and I'll link that blog post for the A2 one as well. So we're going to score this piece first at 6 inches. Now, this 6-inch mark means this is the top of our box. This is the bottom of our box. So if you're using designer paper, it's going to matter, so you need to pay attention to that. I'm using solid paper, so it's not going to matter. So I'm going to score it 6 inches. Then I'm going to turn it. Here, we're going to score at 4.5 and at 7.5. And that gets us our 3-inch space here that is what holds the cards. Or you guys have been putting everything in them. Cards, embossing folders, you name it. This is the section that'll hold that. So that is the score marks. Now we need to make some marks so we can make our angled cuts. So I'm just going to use a pen and using my scoreboard here. Since this is the piece where my cards will stand up, I'm going to come from this score mark out 1 inch and make a little mark. This is just so I can see it in just a few minutes. And then I'm going to do the same here. From the 7.5 inch, I'm going to come out 1 inch and make a mark at 8.5. Then I'm going to turn it. Now this is my 6-inch score mark. I'm going to come up 2.25 inches. So I'm going to come right here, and that's where I'm going to make my little mark for my fold to get the angle on the side. Okay, so that's one. Now I'm going to turn it around, and with the 6-inch piece here, I want to make my marks on the same side of the page. Here's my little marks up here, okay? So I'm going to come out 2.25 inches and make a mark. Now, if you made the first one, that makes perfect sense. If you didn't make the first one, and this is your first time seeing this, let me show you this little cheat sheet. So basically what we just did was measured for these pieces. See this angle? That's all we did was measure for that, okay? So now we can start folding. Oh, let me cut the other piece and do the score marks for it. This little piece that you need extra for this one is 4 by 3.25. Don't worry, all the measurements will be on the blog for you. All right. I'm going to take this little piece and I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch from the end all the way around. So what I like to do, because I get more stability by holding my paper here, I like to measure in 1/2 inch. So I did 1/2 inch. I'm going to turn it. I'm going to come in 1/2 inch again. Turn it. Come in 1/2 inch. Turn it. And then come in 1/2 inch again. I'll put the actual measurements for you guys, but that's the way I like to do it because I get more stability that way, and I'm able to get my 4 score marks just like that. Now for this piece, we need to do a little prep work. So I'm going to, where this little square is on the corners, we don't need this piece. So what I'm going to do is make a slight angle cut right to this side and to the outside of our little score mark there, and meet them in the middle. So I'm going to end up making a cut that looks like this. Let me lay this one here so you can see it. See how it's at an angle? It's not a straight cut. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not going to just cut straight across like I've done before when I've kind of mitered. That takes too much away, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just making a little angled cut, basically cutting away the score mark on an angle. And I'm leaving myself this space. Hope that makes sense. I'm not mitering it like I've done in the past, like I said, because I want to leave as much paper or cardstock as I can for stability. We want to have as much kind of resistance as we can to keep these guys nice and steady on our shelves and things. So now this piece, we can go ahead and make all those little score marks or just fold them down. Now something I did with this one, I gave it 4 sides. You technically only need these 3 pieces to connect to the little box, but I wanted this to be stronger at the top, which is, let me show you on the box so it'll make more sense, which is this section. So I made myself a flap that I can fold over and glue down. So that way if I'm pulling this or this is getting any resistance, it'll be a little sturdier. So for one of the longer flaps, you're just gonna glue that down. Just one of these guys. So I'm gonna just glue that down to itself and I'm gonna crease it with my bone folder, make it nice and sturdy. And so that way, the top of the box doesn't have just kind of a loose edge. It's folded over and it's nice and clean. All right, let's put this guy together. So to get started, we're going to need to make some cuts on our 12 by 12 sheet. This is our middle mark at 6, and these are our 2 marks down the side. What I want you to do is slice that middle mark to the first spot where it crosses over the score mark. You'll see what I mean. We're just going to slice on the score line to that spot where it crosses over and stop. All right? And then I'm going to turn it around and do the same thing on the other side. So I've got it sliced. That's the only slicing we need to do. But I forgot to do my folds. Let's do these real quick. So the reason we made those marks is so we could put it into the scoreboard and we could score it and fold that down and get that little angled side that we wanted. So I'm just putting my little score mark, the little marks I made right there in the score line so I can fold it and get a nice clean fold. That makes sense? Everybody asks me why I do this middle line. That's why. So I can line up on one score mark and know I'm on the same score mark above and below the piece. So I'm taking my little pencil mark here and my pencil mark at the bottom, making my score, and then I'll be able to fold it at the same angle on both sides. All right, and I'll fold this down. Now these I just glue into place. Again, this was for stability. I decided not to cut them away. I decided to glue them down to make my sides even that much sturdier. So just rub that down. I'm going to crease it with my bone folder so it's nice and snug. Just like that. And I'll do the other side. Here we go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and make all the scores nice and creased using my bone folder here. Fold this side over. Then bring this side over. So really just scoring and creasing all of our, or folding and creasing all of our score lines. Okay, now just like in the other one we did, these sides, I don't want to cut this off. I want to use this for stability. What I'm going to do is just take these sides and fold them to the score mark. I'm not going to go over the score mark. I'm going to fold it to the score mark and line it up nice and neat and then crease that down. This just keeps me from having to score another score mark in a specific spot. Just by doing this, this lets me fold it without having to worry about what the score measurement would be. And we can get the same result and know exactly what we need to fold over by doing it this way. So just fold it to the score mark. So I've got these guys folded. Now I want to show you something because you have some options. You do this how you want to do it. You can take this little piece because we're going to glue this flap to itself to make it nice and sturdy. This is the side of our little magazine box holder, okay? You can take this little flap and put it inside of here and glue it closed so it kind of just disappears and goes away. And that looks really nice if you want to do that. And I'm going to show you how to do that. But if you don't want to do all that, you can always just glue this little flap to the inside like this. But you do whatever makes you more comfortable. I'm going to show you how to glue it on the inside. So here's what we'll do. We'll put our glue down inside one of the flaps, just like so. Make sure you get plenty here at the edge. And I'm going to take this little side flap and I'm going to put it right here and glue it together. I'm not crossing the score line over, okay? I don't want to cross it over because I want to be able to fold it. So get that down. So I want this to be able to close nice and easy, okay? And then I'm going to fold this down and crease it all sealed down. All right, so then I'm going to do the same thing over here, but now what I'm going to have to do is bring this guy over and tuck it in whenever I close it up, if I want to hide it this way. Okay, so see how I'm hiding it, and I'm going to glue that down as well. So I think I'll glue the bottom down first. So I'm going to glue right here. That's this bottom strip. So I'm going to put the glue onto this strip. I didn't do it this way in my prototype. I just kind of tucked the little flaps around and they show, and it doesn't bother me really, but I thought in case you wanted it to be nice and clean so that you couldn't see it, we would do it this way. So we tuck that in. All right, and now we're gonna fold this down and glue this guy into the inside. What I'm gonna do is just put some glue on the flap. Bring that up and over, and then seal it down. So you see how that ended up? We have one flap underneath, nice and clean, and these two are tucked in, and that gives you a nice clean pocket. This does look better than the way I did my first one, and now these guys just get glued straight up like this. So I'm going to add some glue to the flap side. Stand this up and connect it. Then the same thing here, some glue. And then fold this down. So that is the base of the 6x6. So this will now hold 6x6 cards. I made a little sample card. This is just a 6x6 card base, okay? And it will fit right in there just like that. So all your little cards can go in there. And if you remember, I told you I wasn't storing my envelopes in here. I'm going to store my envelopes separate, but I'm just going to put my cards in here. So this doesn't have any extra for envelopes because I used one piece of the cardstock to get me, you know, the whole construction, except for this little piece. So I just did it at 6x6. So it's literally enough for your 6x6 cards to sit in, all right? If you want to extend that out, you'd want to do that in this little piece here. You'd want to extend that out. But for me, this works fine because I'm just going to put my cards in a different, my envelopes in a different spot. And this is a 6x6 base and it fits in there just fine. All right, let's work on covering this guy. Now to cover my piece, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use separate panels that will go all the way around, much like we did the A2. So I'm going to put a piece here. And this one, I'm going to cut to fit here. I'm going to teach you how to do that in a second, but I want to talk to you about this. So I decided I'm going to cut this piece down at the same angle, okay? So it's going to cover the whole side. And I could either cut this away and have it meet this piece, okay, if I didn't want to waste that designer paper behind there. But I decided for stability, I like adding more paper. I'm not going to cut this away. I'm going to glue this down and then glue this on top. And all that's going to do is make it stronger, okay? So if you want to cut it to this point, you can, but I'm not going to. That'll make more sense in a second whenever we start to assemble it. So these are the pieces that you'll need for covering, and I'll have those measurements for you again on the blog. These pieces we're going to have to cut for the angle. So what we need to do is we need to take one piece and we're going to make a mark. Here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to put it into my trimmer. I'm going to line this edge up on the 1-inch mark that's on the other side of my cut blade, which means where my cut blade would cut, I'm going to make a little mark, and that's the 1-inch mark, okay? Then I'm going to turn it to this side, and I want to make a mark 2 1/4 inches up from here. So I'm lining this edge up at 2 1/4, and where I would normally cut, I want to make a pin mark. And that will be my angle that I'm looking for. So taking those 2 marks, putting them into my cutting area there where my little blade will go, line them up and slice. So that gets me this. Now, I should have done these at the same time, but here's what you would do. Because you're using designer paper, okay, you don't want to cut them the same because it might mess your paper up. What you want to do is you want to put your papers wrong sides together. Okay, so that way you know the right side is facing out and the right side is facing out. And then you will cut them at the same time. You should have. I didn't because I wasn't thinking. But I'm just going to lay this in here real quick and then slice it. Move this one out of the way. Don't need that. So now I have the right angle on both sides, the correct angle, I should say, on both sides. Okay? All right, let's glue those on. I'm going to glue to the side. Now, you guys have gotten very creative with these things, and I say do that. You do what you want to do. I'm just giving you kind of a basic idea, and you guys run with it. And I love that. That's what I like about these kind of projects. Do what fits your craft room. Maybe there's a certain paper style you want to do it in. Maybe you just want to use double-sided paper and not do all this part here where we're, you know, covering everything again. I personally think it adds to the stability when we cover the whole thing like this, but I've seen you guys do it in so many different ways and they look so cute when they're done. So just do what you want it to look like. All right, let's cover this side. Okay, lay that down and rub it in. All right, I'm gonna glue the front down. I like sitting it up on the table to help line it up too, because that gets everything nice and straight. And then this piece here. So you end up with this nice little storage box. It looks like this. Now, I'm not going to cover the back of this one. You could totally cover the back, no big deal. But I decided this is not going to be seen in any way. Anytime I use it, it's going to be pushed against the bookshelf. So why use that paper, right? I could use it for something else. Especially since it's 6 inches tall, I could totally get this for another piece. You know what I'm saying? Like if I make another of the folders. So there's this one. Now, on the original, you'll remember we made that little flap. So that's just a piece that we stamped and border punched to pull out, and I just glued it on. So you can make those if you wanted to, but you could do anything to make these what you want them to be. So that is the 6x6, and now we'll do the 5x7. As you can imagine, the 5x7 works very much the same way we just did the other one. We're going to make some score marks. The first thing we're going to do with a 12x12 piece of paper is score it at 7 inches. This is the height of our cards, so that's 7 inches. That leaves us 5 inches here. So this means I won't be able to store my envelopes in here with me because envelopes are a little bit bigger than the card, but I'll be able to get my 5-inch cards in here. So as long as you're okay with storing your envelopes elsewhere, you can do it this way, okay? Then I'm going to turn it, and we're going to make those same score marks. 4.5 and 7.5. All right, so as you can imagine, we need another little piece to close this guy together. So I got another piece that is 4 by 3.25, and I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch all the way around. And we're going to assemble this exactly like we did the other one, but making that one little difference in the score mark is going to make this guy work. So we're going to make those angled cuts on the end. Again, I'm going to fold all these pieces down. And we're going to glue one down just like we did on the last one, just for stability's sake. So one of the long strips gets glued shut. Now back to our paper. This is our 7-inch score line. I'm going to cut in the score line all the way to the first crossover, just like before, okay? And the same thing on this side. 7-inch score line to the first place that the score lines cross. And this guy's ready to fold and crease. Now then, we're going to take these bottom side flaps, fold them in half to the score line, don't cross over, just like so. Do the same on the other side. And we're just going to glue these shut. But remember, we want to put this piece in like before. I'm going to try to do a little different this time. I'm going to try gluing this flap down first and see if I think it's easier. I actually think it will be. So maybe gluing this bottom flap first. This is actually the first time I've made the 5x7. I just thought I would do it since it was so similar to the other ones and just see how it goes and just film as I go. So I'm going to glue that piece down to the middle first, and then I'll just sandwich these in whenever I close these down. I think that's going to be easier actually. Oh, I almost forgot to do these marks. I have to stop and do that real quick. That would have been bad, right? So if you make the same mistake, don't worry. You can do just what I'm doing here. So I'm going to make my marks. I need to come 1 inch out from here. and 1 inch out from here. And then I'm going to be 2 1/4 inches up from the 7. So here's the 7, so I'm going to go up 2 1/4 inches and make a mark. Turn this guy around. And the same thing, I need to go up 2 1/4. Ooh, almost messed up on that one. All right, let's make these little score marks real quick and fold them. I still have cold medicine brain. And I want to tell you too, if this is not exactly how you want yours to be, feel free to adjust these measurements to whatever works for you. If you need them to be bigger or smaller, just play around with the placement of the score marks, and that gets you the different sizes. Now, do you remember how I told you if they overlap slightly that you can just trim that off? This one is overlapping for me a little bit, that little point. So I'm just going to take my little snips, and I'm just going to snip up, and that'll take care of that. I'm going to do the same on this side. And I don't want to cut that whole piece away because it really does add to the stability when I glue it down. So I'm just going to do it like that and glue it in place. For me, these are just kind of utilitarian pieces. They're just to hold cards for the year. So I honestly am not as worried about them being as pretty as I am them being functional. Once they get into the bookshelf, and once you fill them with cards, you really won't see this part. I know that sounds bad, but it's the truth. I'm sure we all work that way with some things. It's like, you know what? It just has to work. It doesn't have to be pretty. That's what I tell my son about his basketball shot. It just has to go in the goal. It doesn't have to be pretty. Little mom coaching there for you. All right, so here we go. Now I'm going to close these down and seal these guys in. So let's add our glue, making sure I put some to that edge so that I can grab, it'll catch that little flap for me. I'm going to go ahead and put glue on both sides of this dude, just to make it nice and sturdy. Close this in and then wrap it around it. Make sure I catch that nice and straight. There we go. Yep, I think that was easier. To glue that down on the bottom first was easier, but you learn as you go. All right, and now glue for this guy. Sandwich that little flap. Get that guy glued in. Laying it down and squishing it really does help. There we go. And then, as you can imagine, you're just going to close this guy up just like this. And that is the 5x7 base. Now I think I'm going to cover it exactly like I did the other. I'm going to do the 2 1/4 strip here. That'll be 5 inches wide and 3 inches wide. And I'm going to do exactly the same here, but this one is going to be 7 inches tall and by, what is this, 4, let's measure it. 4.5, and then I'll do that same angle cut just like I showed you on the 6x6. So I'll do that real quick off camera because it's the very same, but I will make sure I put the measurements on the blog post for you if you want to do that. So there you go, 5x7, done exactly the same. I didn't cover the back again. I decided not to. This is a 5x7 card base, and look, it fits just inside. The thing is, there's not room for my envelopes. There's a couple reasons I'm not going to store my envelopes with mine. At first, I thought I was, and when I made my A2 case, I thought, you know what, I will make it big enough to put the envelopes in, but then I decided I wouldn't, and here's why. I don't typically keep as many envelopes as I have cards made up. Now, some people may have a whole bunch of envelopes, but I typically don't. So I'm going to keep my envelopes separate so that I can look back and know just at a glance, oh, I need more of this envelope, instead of having to keep up with every time I put it with a card. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but because I just don't keep as many envelopes as I will typically have cards, because I'm going to make more cards than envelopes, I'm just going to do it this way and keep my envelopes in a separate spot so I can just look at a glance and know, oh, I need to pick up more of those white ones or more of this or what have you. So these fit. They are exact fits in there. The 6s it's an exact fit. The A2 is going to have a little more give because I made it that way, but I was able to because it's a smaller card, so using the cardstock I was able to get a little more give. All right, guys, I hope that helps you in your storage. You guys have been doing amazing things with these guys, and you've asked me for a couple more. I'm going to work on those and see if I can do it. But if you use a card size that I don't use, that I'm not familiar with, this is my prototype. Let me bring the finished one over. If you use one that maybe I'm not familiar with, just kind of think how I did this, and you probably could adjust this to fit whatever card you use. After making, 3 or 4 of these, you probably could figure out, pretty easy how to make that work for your own craft room. That's it for this one, and I'm going to show you another storage idea. Hopefully Thursday. That's my plan, is to show you in our live show another way to do some card storage. And yeah, that's it. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Thanks again for being patient with me while I was sick. I hope this video turns out okay. I still am on cold medicine, so it's a little hard to focus whenever you're kind of on sinus medicine. But I appreciate you guys very much, and have a great time making cards and storing them up to send them out. Have a great one, guys. Bye-bye.